Lovest thou me? For believers to overcome the spirit of this age, we must cultivate a heart of love for the church and for God's children. 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4 says, "In their case the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers, to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." Love is a requirement if we must reach out to the lost and get them convinced to retrace them back to God. It's no longer strange that the flocks are scattered, harassed and molested all over the world. John 3 verse 16 says, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." God out of love gave his only Son Jesus Christ to die for the sins of the world, not the sin he committed. Believers have no excuse to walk in the same love. God created man in his image, which means the nature of God is love, therefore there is a deposit of his nature in every man, but we must allow God to walk in us and through us. We must secure a heart moved with deep love and compassion for God's people and for souls of men who know not their left and their right. 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4, "In their case the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers, to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." God cannot commit end-time revival in our hands if all we want is just to please ourselves and make a name as one of the mega ministries in town whom God is using. We must have a heart that draws sinners close to God and his kingdom. We must reach out to sinners not because we want to be boastful about the congregation we gather, but because God's heritage in Christ is his take. Psalms 110 verse 2-3, "The Lord shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion, rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning thou hast the dew of thy youth." We need a large heart that can accommodate both the errors and the good of God's children, a heart that travails until men are born afresh into God's will for their lives. We need a heart that never gives up on men until they have overcome this terrible wilderness of sin and compromise. We must come to a point when we see men as God sees them. We must hate the sin but try as much as we can to love the sinners. Although God is willing to pour forth his spirits, which is his love, upon his church again, but we cannot present such rigid, hard, and narrow hearts for the coming outpouring. John 21 verse 16, "He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep." I believe Jesus Christ repeated this question 3 times because it's easier to say than do. Jesus wanted to be sure if Peter truly loves him from his heart. I came to understand that all who became custodians of a divine move and visitation were men with hearts that burned and flowed out in love to the lost humanity. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 14a, "For the love of Christ constraineth us, because we thus judge, though we have prayed and probably fasted. Let us further ask God for such a release of his own love into our hearts for his people, and for churches and ministries, so we can also say like men of old, like Apostle Paul and Prophet Jeremiah, who said, Oh, I wish my head were waters, that I may weep for the transgression of my people." This is the kind of hearts that moved men of old to ceaseless tears and prayers, till the fire of revival fell. Brothers and sisters, what is the state of our heart for the Lord and his kingdom? Are we still seeing men the way God sees them, or we continue business as usual? Are you still intense in seeking for revival, or business and personal pursuits have filled up your heart again? What are you doing now? God bless you.